there everyone, and welcome back to Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai. We're back here with the Zulu War mod, but I'm not going to attempt a third attempt at fighting as the British. This time around, we're gonna take a look at the Zulus, and we're gonna go into some depth into the horns of the buffalo tactic that were used by the Zulus. So let's see if we cannot win a battle as the mighty Zulu warriors. And so, we have arrived on the battlefield and we're looking down upon my army of about 12,000 Zulu warriors. A mighty force indeed. As far as I know, the biggest force ever fielded by the Zulus would number up to 30,000 men. But here we are left with a third of it. I should also say here, this is the exact army composition, both for my side and for the British, as in the previous two battles. Yes. With that said, we'll quickly now go over the Horns of the Buffalo formation and explain that. And so, here we have it. We have a large overview of the entire force. We can see 4 distinct lines, which comprise the 3 main parts of the horns of the buffalo. We've got the chest, we've got the horns, and we've got the loins. As the formation then marches towards the enemy, we'll keep this rectangular shape of these 4 lines. But as we were closer, the different parts of the buffalo will detach and will actually make the shape similar to the horns of the buffalo. So what we can see here in the front line is that we got 2 lines. These comprise the chest. Then the third line, which is the horns. And then the fourth line, which is the loins. In the front line, we've got the first line being made up of the scouts. The musket-wielding, the flintlock musket-wielding Zulus that will skirmish against the British and kind of pin them in place and start a battle with them. Behind them we got the rest of the chest. These are the melee warriors, which will charge bravely, dash across the field, and intend on killing the British with their assegai. Then we come to the third line. These are the younger guys. They're impatient. They're looking for glory and victory in battle. These are the horns of the buffalo. They will, 5 regiments each, deploy to either side of the main body and then try to envelop the British force, attacking from the sides and from the rear. So we have a complete enveloping force. Then we come to the loins, the reserve, the line all the way in the back. Here we got the best troops, the most experienced warriors. These will be moved up to fill gaps or exploit successes. So we'll multiply a success, or we'll shore up somewhere where the line might falter. So we keep the pressure on the enemy everywhere. And that is the horns of the buffalo. With all of this talking, let's see if I can actually deploy this against the British and fight them in the manner of the Zulu. The battle is about to commence. The horns are being deployed and it looks like we might come to blows early on this side. The British are reforming their formation and it's the perfect time to hit the unorganized British line. So the scouts will move ahead and move forwards to meet the enemy. Meanwhile, the main body will follow and set up right behind them. And now the horns will be moving in on the flanks. So we are within range of the British on this side. So we need to move with haste to hit them over here and try and break through. At the same time, the skirmishers are making their way forward. These two regiments will go straight into the 58th Regiment of Foot. And this is the first start of the attacks of the Horn. The problem here was the British were able to deploy the line in such a way that I have been unable to come around the lines here, which pose quite a bit of a difficulty. But I am successfully able to kind of outrun the British forces on this side, even though we are hit pretty badly. We've got 1st British Regiment retreating, the 2nd one being overwhelmed. The British are at the same time pushing heavy towards the center. This horn going through the wood is becoming rather tired. But so are forces within the British center as well as the reforming here. This side has been successful. And meanwhile, the skirmish line is holding the British, as at least the right horn has successfully done their part, and they've broken down 3 enemy regiments. The British are closing in really rapidly here against our flank, which I'm not too sure about why they're doing that. These regiments will now head towards this side. As this is now going in, it might very well be high time to deploy the main thrust of the chest.
Sir, our general is under attack.
And we're gonna swing them in. As we kind of outflank the enemy here, we've got at least 3 regiments that are kind of out of line of where the enemy are. That's going to be moved forward. And then at the same time, I'm actually going to have all the musket wielders also move forward with the main line here and attack the center. Okay, so we've broken these regiments. Now we're going to move in on this one. The musket scouts will now be moving in to attack as well. We have a few of our Zulus finding some difficulty against the British, but overall we're doing pretty well. We're gonna break up this and I'm gonna reform it, and then the loin's gonna advance. So we got 1 regiment over there that was broken. But as we can see, the British force is slowly but surely breaking down. Even though I wasn't fully, like, we have quite a bit of difficulty in the center. We have problems actually everywhere. It's time to deploy the loins to shore up. I'm a little bit slow on sending in the loins. They should have been moved in sooner, as a lot of our warriors became tired from the excessive fighting. Gonna boost the troops here. And especially the one that's currently taking fire from the Gatling gun. We've managed to push through there. Now let's continue on to there. The two over here. And the ones over here. And then also I think some war cries could do well. Alright, we're successfully able to force our way through. And really, the flank that I actually thought was going to do worse, because we had stacks of regiments like that, that was actually the flank that did the best in terms of the horns of the buffalo. That side was successfully able to fight really well. I got my general here. I'm worried that the entire line is gonna crash and crumble if I send them in. He actually needs to move over here to support these guys, which are not doing too hot right now.
Our men are running, sir.
So I don't want a mass rout on the very successful right flank. So as he comes in here, he shores up the troops. And at the same time, his ring of influence extends over to these guys, which are now headlong charging straight in to the fire of... Ooh, this entire side is kind of not very happy there. I'm gonna call for a war cry, and I'm gonna do an encouragement. We have quite a few Zulu regiments that have rallied, and they're gonna be pushed into the fight again. You know what, the Zulu King, I'm gonna move him around and we're gonna attack straight towards the enemy's general. And we're gonna see if we can't end this fight right here. General versus general. I'm gonna put the regroup position right there. Alright, here comes the general versus general. As the British lose their commander, that would seal their fate. Just as us losing our own commander would seal ours. Keep going after him.
Glorious victory, sir, is soon to be yours.
It looks as though we are victorious. The British force is broken. And the Impis have won. And there we have it. A great Zulu victory. We deployed almost 12,000 men against almost 7,000 by the British. We ended up losing little less than half the force, about 5,000 men out of the 12,000 men force. The British, though, lost 6,177 out of their 6,738, which leaves about 600, probably less, that actually survived the battle and were able to leave the field. When we go to individual statistics, we can see that our highest killer on our side is part of the Loins. It's part of one of the better regiments. They lost 108 men and killed 343. Not really what we see among the British. When I played as the British, when we could see, you know, 600 kills for some of them. It's a little bit different though, when you actually have to get in close and bleed the guy to death by stabbing him. As we go down, I think these are flanking regiments, is part of the type of troop that I deployed for the secondary line of the chest, but also the ones for the horns. Pretty good statistics for two of these, where they lost about 100 men to 150 and killing 300, so that's pretty good. This one took a lot of damage, 250, but 329 at the same time. As we come down here, it's another unit of the Loins. Then we got 2 units of the Loins as well. It's maybe what I should have done is I should have put the specific regiments depending on, like, I should have put one specific type of unit on the left horn. I should have put one on the right horn. I should have put one on the chest, one on the loin, and so on. So it would have been easier to tell, you know, this is what happened to, this is kind of the statistics for the chest. This is for the right horn, this is for the left horn. Could have been easier to establish a better call out on that. What I would say, though, is I was mostly worried about the right horn, because they were stacked British regiment right at the corner, but that seemed to have played into us, strategy better, because the lines couldn't then fire, as they would fire into the friendlies in front, and so we were able to quickly overwhelm that side and kill them, even though we weren't actually able to surround it. So I thought that was pretty neat, compared to the left side where I had plenty of movement range, but because it really came down to slow deployment, same with the slow deployment to get in the loins. If I gotten them in earlier, we probably would have saved quite a few Zulu warriors from death, had we sent that in earlier to shore up, to, you know, send in those experienced guys to shore up the more inexperienced younger warriors, to like show them like we're here now, and the battle would probably not have been as long as it was, and we would have taken less casualties. As we go down, we can see the worst performers are the scouts, which is no surprise. They're terribly inaccurate, and their melee skills is, I don't think, comparable to the other units that we have here. Although we do find here at the bottom, in terms of kills, quite a few of the loin units, although they don't take that many casualties, although pretty bad for some of these. I imagine these are the center ones, dashing across that open ground into rolling fire coming down upon them. Certainly did not do great, but at the same time we got a few here that, you know, there's not a lot of losses down here to compare for the kills they made. So it's not like these units were wiped out before they were able to kill anyone. It's more like they were shot at and then they didn't arrive before the British actually went away. And the statistics overall for most of these aren't that bad. There's individual Zulu regiments that do pretty poorly, but most of them is 1-to-1, which is all we need because we're twice the numbers of the British. I like in Shogun that you can actually scroll down and you get the British side as well. So what we can see here is the 99th Regiment is able to kill 417. It's completely destroyed though, and as we look through the British here, very few men survive out of this. The 3rd Regiment, only 2 guys make it out of that one. 6 from the Atheists. Oh, and I should say here, it's the same as in the British setup. So we have, you know, 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion of each regiment. So very few survivors out of any of these. I think the highest survivors are probably the regiments that were deployed on the right, the British left. So out there in the corner. We actually have a naval brigade here, which only lost about half their troops. But I think if we go down here and we see the losses, we got the general, we got the Gatling guns down here, but obviously they can't lose that many. But if I go back and actually take a look, we probably see like the 58th is probably one of the flanking regiments, just because they lost that few. I don't think the naval brigade was deployed on the left. The 80th, still about 54 men survived out of that, but I mean it's very poor reading when it comes to British in terms of survivors. Only about 500 or so made it out of 6,000. So that's about what? That's 1%? Or is it 10? No, it's about 1. Right? Is it? Anyways, yes, it's 10. With that said, there's nothing more to say. I'm quite happy with this victory, actually. Given what I saw in battle, I thought I'd lost a lot more. I think the problem was in terms of what I can improve for doing this again, it's to be quicker in response to sending in the loins, and just, you know, getting everything going at the same time in a way, and sending up the general close by so he's there to able to support, because we had tons, like probably thousands of men retreating back because they didn't feel that confident or safety in numbers. So if we had sent in the loins earlier, we've sent in the troops better in that way, we probably would have done a lot better, and I could probably have you know, destroyed the British a lot earlier and at least saved maybe 1,000 men out of my losses. So we would have definitely done a lot better in that way. But yeah, with that said, I'll say as I always say, hopefully you guys enjoy this, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye!